Well, hello there. You're listening to Radio 1's Public and Community Affairs program. This is Dr. Yashima White Ozzie Love, Vice President of Corporate Communication, and I am thrilled that you've joined me on today. In the words of our founder, Miss Kathy Hughes, information is power. And here at Radio 1, we're committed to providing the Black community with the information you need to elevate your life, family, and community. So I sure hope you are ready to be engaged and informed, because I'm super excited to present to you part 2 of our New Year, New You series. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to live a purposeful and productive 2016. I know that so many of you have established their New Year's resolutions. There's a number of things that are on your list. Some of you might even be feeling some anxiety around some of those things that you've already put on your list. But today's show is all around purpose, passion, and power. And with me on today is the beautiful Michell Stanley, who is a psychotherapist and certified life coach. And after 10 years of hands-on experience with yoga and psychology, Michell started the Moksha Living, which is a holistic life coaching and therapy practice in Washington, D.C. I'm so excited that you're here with me on today, Michell. I'm going to love that. Michell, I love that. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and
Wonderful.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I mean, your life work, what you do, is really at the foundation of what the crossroad we all come to. It just so happens we come to the crossroads likely at the beginning of the year, right? When we are all overwhelmed about, I can't live another 2015, right? 2016, people are saying is sweet 16. It's the year of the coming out, if you will. And those things that have bound us, or perhaps we prepared for in 2015, we really get to manifest them as this being the year of the 16, where we get to represent ourselves into the world. But I have found that folks, again, are already overwhelmed, right, with the idea of the steps to take to do that. Or even individuals who haven't even created that so-called New Year's resolution yet, because they're overwhelmed with the what should be on the list, because they don't know their purpose. They don't know how to tap into that passion place, and they are not living in their power seat. So let's just talk about that for a minute, because people talk about purpose a lot. One of the most sold books on the planet is Purpose-Driven Life, right? So let's just talk about, just by pure definition, what is purpose? Because I know you work at helping people to dig deep and to find what that is. So as a working definition, what is purpose?
Well, I think simply put, purpose is figuring out what makes your life meaningful to you, and then living according to that. And the thing is that figuring out your purpose can take a lifetime, and we're constantly redefining and evolving what that purpose is. And as we become able to live into that and evolve into that, we get clearer on what it is. And so our purpose may be changing or becoming more refined as we get older.
So I think that's a really important point, because it is not a destination, right? You're saying it's something that evolves, it's something that unfolds, and it morphs over time. So how does one begin? So, let's make this my coaching session that folks are listening in on. But so you have a client that comes to you and they say, I'm purposeless. I just can't quite figure out what's going to make me happy. What are some of the steps that people should go through as they are contemplating, one, if they got the New Year's resolution right because it's aligned with purpose, right? Or if they can't quite put it on paper yet because they don't know how to tap into purpose, what are some of the things they can be doing to help define that?
Okay, so your question is, what can people do to help them define and understand better what their purpose is? That's a great question. And actually, it's normal, and most people don't know. And so when we're creating New Year's resolutions, we're often guessing, or we're just creating a lofty goal of what we think we should be doing, or what we think we should be striving for.
Right.
And so where I often tell people to start is start with what they actually feel, what they actually enjoy doing. And it's really hard for people to connect, because you have to actually connect to how you feel and not what you think you should be doing. That is the key difference. What is it that you feel? What is it that you truly enjoy? What is it that makes you feel happy? What is it that makes you feel the things that you want to feel? How is it that you want to feel in your life? And figure out what are the things that actually make you feel that way, not what you think will make you feel that way, what actually makes you feel that way. And then understanding that New Year's resolutions are about small steps in lifestyle change and not in sweeping behavior change, which is what people often do that gets them off on the wrong track, is that they start with sweeping behavior change, and then that has nowhere else to go except
you do it or you fail,
yeah,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
It goes into failure.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fail at doing a sweeping behavior change over a long period of time because it's not sustainable. So starting with something small lifestyle changes that feel good to you, that you enjoy, that make you feel the way you want to feel, small steps every day. That's how you get there.
Yeah.
And that's also how you start to figure out what's meaningful to you, and therefore you start living your purpose. You're not figuring it out before you get there. You're getting there, and then that's informing, and you're using that intuition to understand your purpose.
So let's talk about this feeling word, because you stressed it a lot.
Yes.
And it's almost the thing that we're taught to almost shun, right? That it's not about your feeling. I mean, how many of our mothers, right? How many teachers, how many pastors, how many folks, mentors in our lives have said, you need to get out of your feelings. It's not about how you feel. It's not about that. You need to get in your headspace. What makes sense? And that's polar opposite to what you just described. So take us through the idea of when and why feelings are healthy. When do they become unhealthy, right? But why is it important to actually tap into, and why do we have a right to tap into and to own our feeling place, that feeling zone, and why that really is a trigger for identifying this passion place or purpose place that you're speaking about?
Great. Those are really great questions. So I'll start with the first one, which is, why is it that it's good to sense, to feel? Yes, to feel. And when is it appropriate to, maybe, I'll use the word that's often used, manage our emotions, okay? So when we're talking about managing our emotions, and we actually talked about this yesterday in our life coaching school, so I'm glad you brought it up, is when we're talking about managing our emotions, we're usually talking about our emotions on the acting out level or on the behavior level. And we're usually talking about, what I'm going to use the word is, we're getting upset or we're getting angry. Now, if we're doing that, we're already acting out. We're yelling, a child throws a temper tantrum, that's a great example. So, or we're getting upset. When we're in that level, we're not actually in tune with what we're actually feeling. We're acting out of it. We're reacting to what we're feeling. Okay? So that is the part that we want to manage, how we are reacting to our emotion. But the part
So the anger is not the feeling. It is the reaction to a feeling that you are actually not truly addressing in that moment. I think that's a really important distinction, right? Because that's when people, right? We've all been taught, don't react, right? To calm down, right? I always hate that, right? When people say calm down, that's when you want to really say something or do something, right? But it's a really powerful point that you're making, that the behavior that people are responding to as an emotion is really not the baseline feeling that you are speaking of.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we often have two things. We have a primary emotion and we have a secondary emotion. And often what we are dealing with when we're talking about managing something is we're dealing with the secondary emotion, which might be the judgment of the first emotion that we had or the reaction to the first emotion we had. So I'm saying, connect to what is the primary emotion that you're having.
Yeah.
And that is important because every emotion has a physiological feeling associated. And when you can connect to that, it informs you. It can inform you about very different things. So anger, if we really understand, anger often is an umbrella emotion. There is something else underneath it. But when we have like a core emotion of anger, often it represents resentment. It represents where our boundaries have been violated, where we're not protecting our own boundaries, where we're not safe. And the same thing, sadness can be attuning us to what needs to be forgiven, what needs to be grieved. Jealousy can inform us to inform decision making. So all of these emotions, when we understand what the primary emotion is, we understand what we need to do, so skillful action, or we can understand what we need to heal.
Yeah, that's great. You're listening to Radio 1's Public and Community Affairs show. This is Dr. Yashima, and I have the pleasure of being in our chat room today with Michell Stanley, who's a psychotherapist, and we're talking about strategizing for a purposeful and productive 2016. And she's already dropping knowledge on us and helping us to appreciate how to identify the feeling we want in life. So let me take you back there. So we identify, if I go through this as step one, identifying how you want your life to feel. Yes. Oftentimes people say, what do you want your life to look like? And you're saying before you ever get to what you see, you've got to identify with what it feels like to you, right? As a step number one. Then where do we go from there? And when we're trying to identify purpose.
Well, I think that's a great summary of what I'm talking about, that you want to know how it feels, and then you can start to understand, you're going to start doing things based on that. And I say that you start doing things that make you feel good, and you start expanding it out. So you found out you did one thing that felt good, and you find more and more things like, wow, you know what? I just found that walking around the block, taking 10 deep breaths, I felt good. So maybe tomorrow I'm going to walk 2 blocks and take 20 deep breaths. So it starts to get more expansive, and you get to get more things in your bank of what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And I think that where this is really important is that as it relates to New Year's resolutions and being the best version of yourself is motivation. We are not going to have motivation to do anything that we envision for ourselves if we don't feel good while we're doing it.
That's part. Say it again. Repeat, rewind.
Yeah. So when we talk about New Year's resolutions and being the best version of yourself, when you envision anything for yourself and you want it, you see it, it would be great if you had it. If you do not have the motivation to do it, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
And motivation is emotional. People forget that, or they just don't think about that. So why we need to feel good is that that's how we get the motivation to do what we want and what we need for ourselves.
See, that's so powerful to me, because there are so many things that look good, right? Because we live our life for the facade. So many people live the mask, right? So we can envision a life that we want, but we can be so far removed from it emotionally that it doesn't feel good. It just looks good. And so I want each one of our listeners to really grab that New Year's resolution list if you've created it already. And I want you to be honest with yourself, look at that list and assess, does this just look good or will this really make me feel good?
Absolutely.
There's so many women that are in relationships that look good, but really don't feel good, which makes them in and of themselves unhealthy for us, right? Many folks have married the wrong person because it looked good on paper. He had the credentials, he had the job, the house, the car, but yet he really does not affirm the who you really are, right? And that's the stuff you're talking about right now. So I'm just breaking them down in examples so people can really identify themselves, where you can literally be living a life, creating a New Year's resolution, have even a plan that looks great and sounds like what you should be saying that you want and should be saying that you should do, but it really is counterintuitive to what ultimately feeds you.
Absolutely.
How often is that the case? You've been in practice for 10 years. How often is that true, that people really have almost lied to themselves and are convinced that what they say they want is really the thing that really fuels them?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And it is surprising how often, when people even start doing the work of realizing what's truly important to you versus what is it that you're doing for other people, or because you've absorbed from society or from your family or from what other people have said what's important to you, how hard it is to redirect yourself. And so some of the questions I ask people to think about is this something that's really important to you, or is it something that you think you should? I always say you're shooting on yourself. You should be doing.
You're shooting on yourself. I love that. I love that.
Is that, if nobody else knew that you were doing it, would you still want to do it? And then the other one is that when you're like, if you have a New Year's resolution on your list, like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. If you look at that and you say, am I going to be going to the gym, how am I going to feel when I go to the gym 5 days a week? Am I going to be feeling peaceful, relaxed, joyous, at ease, however it is that you want to feel? Are you going to be feeling those things? And if you're not, then it's not the right task for you towards your purpose
Your
and towards
goal.
your
Right,
yes, exactly,
right.
towards your best self. Because your best self wants to be doing the things that are actually feeding it.
Yeah.
And so, if
You know, that's a great example because I hate the gym. But I'm clear that I need to have a health fitness goal for the year. So I had to identify the thing, and I didn't know I was doing this until you're just saying this, right? That would make me feel good, because gyms don't make me feel good. I feel inadequate in the gym. Somebody is always more fit, running faster, or lifting more. They're always doing something. So I feel like it's a competitive environment. I don't do well in it. But what does make me feel good is I love going for walks. I love when my son is on his bike and I'm actually chasing him on his bike. It gives me a reason to run, to jog, or to walk that much faster. So that is what I'm planning. So I'm planning that to be mommy-son time. It helps centers me. It gives me a time to pray and to really think and clear my head. And so I've found that instead of me saying 3 to 5 days at the gym, it just has become 3 to 5 days doing something around fitness that gives me peace. And for me, that's walking.
That's a perfect example.
Great.
That's a perfect example. And as you start walking and as you start feeling more peace, it will expand on its own. And one day, I'm not going to tell you where it's going to go into, but it will become, maybe you will go to the gym one day, or maybe
maybe I'll do a walkathon, girl,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Exactly. But that's a great example. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. What are some of those other obstacles? We talk about fear kind of being an obstacle. What are some other limiting factors for why people really don't even get out of the month of January with these New Year resolutions?
Yeah. So I think that fear is one of them. And we don't really understand that fear is there, but it's there. So you are actually afraid. Like, you go to the gym, you start to feel bad, and then you don't realize that you're feeling bad, but you're feeling bad. And over time, you start saying the negative self-talk. I'm fat. Why is everybody more fit than me? And that is over time going to wear you down.
Yes.
And so I think that two things that I would say are obstacles to becoming the best you are motivation, which we already talked about, and we said that we help ourselves to be motivated by doing things that feel good, right?
Yes.
The other one is procrastination. And so if you decide that you want to have a New Year's resolution or have a goal for yourself, we want the goal to be something that feels good, right? But we also want it to be something that you are going to start literally like today. So if you do not feel like you can start working on your goal today, I would say that it's not the right goal, it's not realistic enough, or it's not simple enough. It's not easy enough. It needs to be easy that you can start making small steps towards it now. So I would say procrastination is one of the obstacles that people experience. And procrastination also is emotional. And so if you don't know that there is an emotion there, you'll just be beating yourself up about, why am I procrastinating? And I need to just, maybe I like to procrastinate. I'm better motivated when I that's not usually true. Procrastination is emotional, so it's important to look at what is it that's underneath the procrastination. And often it's a fear or it's an overwhelm, not knowing where to start, what to do first, which is why we say break it down into a small step, make it simple, make it realistic, something you can start doing. And if there is a fear behind why you're procrastinating, to be honest with yourself about what you're fearing. It could be a fear of failure. It could be a fear that you could get what you want and then what?
Right.
But just to face the fear. I love this acronym about fear that I heard a while ago was fear is false evidence appearing real. Yes. So once Dr. Yashima. So once you confront it, then it starts to lessen the power and hold that it has over you.
Absolutely. You're listening to Radio 1's Community and Public Affairs Show. This is Dr. Yashima, and I'm in the studio with Michell Stanley, and she is dropping nuggets, impacting our lives so we can live our best selves in 2016. So, we're talking about our feelings, right? Our feelings are the foundation of our motivation, right? I love that. I love that we've talked about, procrastination is probably a sign that the goal is too big, or there's a fear factor, or it's not simple enough. I love the idea of that if we cannot literally start doing something today that drives action behind our plan, then it is not burning platform enough for us, right? So we need to start assessing why that's the case.
Exactly.
Talk to me a little bit about how much perhaps self-esteem, the love for oneself could, or the lack thereof, could actually be behind why so many of us don't fulfill these New Year resolutions, why just in February we've already dropped the ball for what we committed to ourselves in January.
Okay, that's a really great question. So the way that I can say it is that self-esteem is really about knowing that we are valuable, knowing that we are loved, knowing that we are worthy outside of what we are doing. So we as a person innately are lovable, worthy, and valuable. And so what happens when we don't have that premise is we create a very lofty goal to compensate for that.
Wow.
And then that puts us into the cycle that we've already been talking about. You set a lofty goal to compensate because you already feel inadequate in some way. And, some people, you can describe this as perfectionism. You can also describe it as just overachieving or overproductiveness. And so when you have that, it is going to set you up for the cycle of things that we've discussed.
That is really powerful. So you've got these, it's so funny how we displace what we value in life, right? We see highly successful people, driven, goal-oriented. Aren't these all supposed to be positive things, right? This is what,
Right.
this is what everybody tells us we're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And in essence, you could actually be that and still be living beneath your privilege, still not living your who. And those things could be compensating or hiding or shielding the real core essence of who one is. That's some really powerful stuff.
That is really powerful. And that is the essence of what we're teaching in our life coaching school and also in the life coaching that we give our clients. We are teaching people how to live from the core of who they are, which is it's totally like moving something that was behind in your mind forward, and what was forward, what you were focused on, we're putting that to the back. So it's a complete reversal of how we've been orienting ourselves.
And so let's be realistic about this, right? If you've lived life that way, our listener is, some 40, 45-year-old woman that's out there listening right now who has lived life this way for 40, 45 years. How long does it take to actually have that kind of mental shift for a life where really in most environments you've been fed to process the way that we process, right? And it has not benefited us. I hate to say that it was all wrong. It just hasn't been maximally beneficial, right? And so how long does it usually take to begin to shift that mentality, to really implement what it is we're talking about right now?
I'm really glad you asked that. And as you asked that, I was thinking about the question, I got goosebumps. So I think that that's always a good sign that it's something juicy. So what I think is that the degree on how much time it takes relates to how receptive one is to being able to feel. And I'm going to say, I could say feel worthy, feel valuable, but to receive love. That's the word I'm going to use right now. It's not about thinking, it's about feeling. And in order to feel, you have to be able to receive. And
okay, you have to say that again, because that is, right, that's loaded. In order to receive, or in order to feel, one must first be able to receive love. That's such a powerful, okay, so talk to us more about that.
Yeah. So your question was about how long does it take to feel good about yourselves, essentially. And I was saying that can be as long or as short as it takes somebody to be able to feel that they are loved, valuable, and worthy. And in order to feel those things, you have to be able to receive, because those things are freely available in the world. It is our resistance to accepting and receiving those things that blocks it.
Yeah, that will preach right there. I love that, Michelle. These things are free and readily available to us. So when folks are living in this place of of lack of worth and this place of even depression, even when it's real clinical depression. Most people that say they're depressed are really not experiencing true clinical depression, right? But even when we are living in that place, it's so awesome to think, to process that what you need is actually free and readily available to you, not tomorrow, today.
Today.
And
now.
your ability to receive it is the only thing that is hindering you from living your best self, or at least beginning the path to living your best self.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, it's that awkward radio moment because that's so powerful. You're listening to Radio 1's Public and Community Affairs show. It's Dr. Yashima. I'm with Michelle Stanley, who is absolutely phenomenal and powerful. And if you are listening today and you're finding yourself in a place where you've made resolution after resolution year after year, and you really haven't manifested, and you feel like you are living in self-defeat because you're not living your best self, and what you're hearing today is absolutely touching you. It's ministering to you. It is speaking and resonating for you. You can take the first step today. Why don't you take the next minute to just speak to that individual who is perhaps even overwhelmed with emotion, just listening to the dialogue today because you've identified them. Take them through something that will encourage their heart, and then I'll drive us home.
Okay, great. So I would say that for that person who feels like they have been wanting and they have been striving for years and maybe longer to get what they want, and they have just fallen short and never been able to really get there, to really look at the stories that they are telling themselves about why they do not deserve, why they do not have, why they cannot have, why it's not working out, and really starting to understand the things that they are telling their thinking, and to really challenge themselves to let go of those self-doubts. And in order to let go, you have to forgive, not other people, yourself. You have to forgive yourself for being imperfect. You have to forgive yourself for all the things in the past that you are feeling bad about, that you have equated make you less than. You have to understand that you are truly valuable, lovable, and worthy at your core, despite what you do and any faults or imperfections that you have. And once you understand that, you feel into that and allow that feeling to guide your decisions, to guide your communication, to guide your behaviors, and you start living from that place. And once you start living from that place, you will notice that your life and your life experiences will start to change.
Yes. Selah. That's a Selah moment. How do our listeners find you?
They can find me at www.mokshatherapy.com, and they can also contact me through that website, and all of my information is there. And I have plenty of resources, plenty of blogs and ways to keep in touch through people. And we also have Facebook.
Wonderful. So folks, your personal talk, self-talk, is the most important talk that you can actually speak. And if you need to change that self-talk, there are people like Michelle who are available to you to be able to help you on that journey. Thank you so much for being here on today. You've done a great work today. You should know that. You should feel good about that. And to each one of our listeners, we hope this show has helped you to feel informed and inspired, and you feel completely empowered to make a difference in your life and in your community today. So on behalf of my girl, Kiana, our producer, who's always holding me down in the studio, this is Dr. Yashima. We hope that you are gonna do better because you now know better. Be blessed.